Good morning and welcome to another episode of Dashboard Dialogues. My name is Jake Silveira. Today I will be interviewing Josh Kliethermes, St. Louis blues fanatic, barbecue aficionado, tech wizard, and vendor expert at Johnny Londoff Chevrolet in St. Louis, Missouri. All right, Josh. So, tell me a little bit about yourself, what you're currently doing. I know you're over at Johnny Londoff. How long have you been there? And what do you like most about it?
So far, I really enjoy working for the organization. The organization's been great. Started 6 years ago. Came into the IT role as coming out of a managed service space into the private sector more, and I've enjoyed it so far. It's been, the owner's great, the organization's great, expanding, which is always a good thing. So,
Especially in this market, right?
yes, it is.
So how are you guys expanding? I know you guys opened the Super Center not long ago. How are you guys expanding now?
We're actually expanding that. So as of, I think it was mid-April, we had broken ground and started building our service center out there.
Okay. All right.
That started, that plan's been in the works now for probably going on 9 months. So it's been a lot of work, and we got a long way ahead of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, one of the questions that we like to start with is telling us about your first car. What did you drive? How nice and fast was it?
So my first car was actually a totaled rebuild. My dad works in the auto body business, and they had a four-door. It was a red car. I can't remember what it was now. It was a Chevy. I do remember that much. My first two cars were both Chevys. Um, but it was a car that had gotten wrecked, and I bought it to put a little bit of work into it and started driving it.
Absolutely. How long did you drive that thing?
About 6 months.
It took you 6 months to run it to the ground?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So one of your roles at the dealership is obviously managing vendor relationships. I know you and I have spoken pretty extensively over the last several years, and we'll get to the barbecue in a minute. That's definitely going to be coming up. But I'd like you to tell me a little bit about the process that you go through vetting a new vendor for the dealership and helping your dealership's efficiency, the bottom line, and if you could give us the difference between what you feel is a good vendor and a great vendor.
Well, so typically I start off with, I one of the first things I'll do when I start looking at vendors is I'll go, of course, like anybody does, go online, start looking them up, seeing what's out there about them.
Right.
In our case, when meeting you guys for the first time, Brad had come into the dealership and introduced himself. Talked to him for a little bit, and then went out and you did a little bit of research about you guys, found out what you guys were about, how long you guys been in business, just getting a little bit of information that, helps me make a good informed decision. From there, I talk to, we get demos and go through everything. I get a feeling for how my team feels of it as well. And then it comes down to pricing too a lot. And at the time when we were looking at Dealerslink, we were a Viato customer, and Viato was just getting to the point where every time you turned around, it was, oh, you want this? Okay, well, you got to pay another $500. So it was becoming really hard to manage a software when every time you turn around to get added features, to do this, to do that, it was a huge price increase. And that was, and I know that's with a lot of companies, but that was one of the nice things when I sat down with Brad the second time and told him, what we were really wanting to be able to do and how to do it. I was really pleased that he's like, this is the package. This is what it includes. And then it was from there, he goes, there's stuff you can add on, but everything we wanted, he gave to me in one shot. So that's very nice. When we went through a phone system changeover, and the vendor that had our old phone system in, I told them what I wanted, and they came back and they're they're like, "Here you go," and I'm like, "This isn't everything I told you I wanted." Well, we're just giving you some rough numbers. Well, how rough are they? Give me some information. Well, they wouldn't. They would never answer my question. So I dropped them. And when I told them I went with somebody else, they were like, "Oh man, we had all these deals we could get you." I was like, "I asked about that. You guys wouldn't tell me about that." So one of my biggest things is I like companies that are upfront about what their product's about and being able to really understand what they're about. I don't like companies, day before we go to sign, oh, we're sneaking this in. You said something about this feature. Did you still want it? I'm like, yeah, that's important to us. Why wasn't it in on the original quote?
Right.
So then when you back and requote it, it's like, well, now you're out of the ballpark for what we're looking at doing. So so that's very important to me. I just went through that. I just switched some other software around here recently. I'm actually making the final changes this weekend on that. And that was another thing. I had a company I was looking at. One company was very straightforward with me, said, unfortunately, at this time, we weren't going to be able to work together. They were hoping that their software was going to be out of their beta release, but it wasn't. Um, so I told them, okay, well, next year we'll try again.
Right. And so it sounds like, cost isn't the only factor there. Obviously, if you can save money and get a better service, it helps, but
It always does. It makes the big guy happy upstairs.
absolutely, absolutely. We don't want to make Mr. Londoff unhappy. You won't be going to
No,
any more Blues games, right?
exactly. But
um,
no, yeah, so I do the best I can when I come to that, but I also want to make the best decision for the dealership and what we're putting in. Yes, price is always a factor, but if that price is so cheap because we're missing 10 things that X company was going to do for just a little more money that we really need, I'd rather spend a little more money or talk to them about it and say, we can do this for this price, but we're going to be able to have all these added features for this over here. So it's one of those things where I got to kind of figure out what's going to be best for the store, but also make sure I'm making the best financial decision.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, kind of building off of that with your IT experience and what you do, how do you stay on top of the trends that are going on in the automotive space and the dealership environment?
Right now, it's tough no matter what we do. I've got, just like the IT world, I can learn, get informed something on a Monday that Microsoft's making this change on Tuesday. Well, come Thursday, they've had to revert the change back because X broke, or oh, they had to add this additional step in because X was broke, and the only way to do it was by doing this.
Hmm.
So it makes it tough, but I do what I can to best stay up. It's tough no matter what you do. The technology world is ever evolving. Cars are getting smarter than they ever have. So that also makes it tough. When back in the day when cars were, you didn't know a car didn't have a computer in it at all, other than maybe what the radio needed to run. Now, when every component of the car is controlled by the computer, from the lights to the windows to the radio to the buttons on the steering wheel, everything's controlled by the computer.
Sure. Yeah.
And even the technicians here, that's one of the things they talk about. He goes, some of the older technicians are like, I didn't think I'd ever be a computer repair tech. And that's what they feel like they are now, because that's all a car is one big computer.
Yeah, absolutely. It keeps you on your toes. It makes things interesting. What's some of the coolest software that you've seen specifically for the dealership, whether it's for sales or if it's for service or a CRM type feature? What's one of the coolest innovations you've seen in the last several years?
Back in 2019, we were invited to a showing of a new DMS hitting the market. Um, that DMS now is growing like I've never seen a technology company grow. To be honest, they're expanding. They're always changing, and they're a great company to work with. They're When you say they have everything built into one set of screens, one login, they really do. I can go from CRM to DMS to in all aspects of the DMS. I don't have to hop out of this section to go to this section. It's click, I'm in service, click, I'm in parts, and everything talks nicely with each other. You're not having to wait for some API call at night to run to get information from service to accounting or parts to accounting. Everything's live, everything's rolling through the day. You can check your reports and know what's happening as things change. There might be, a 10-minute delay going into some of the reports, but most of the reports are within seconds that I have X information in front of me. So
Okay.
it was really impressive to see. And after a lot of talking that we did, we decided to make the move. It was the first DMS move the Londoff organization has ever gone through. Coming off of
Wow.
CDK going to Tachyon, they that was the first move they have ever done, and it was one of those things where it was nerve wracking. They had spent 40 years with CDK. They were one of the first dealers in St. Louis to be on it, and you make a big move like that. It's nerve wracking from the top down
Oh,
because
absolutely.
they've never dealt with one before.
Sure.
Um, but to see the growth that this company has had through since November of 2020 when we made the changes, it's eye opening to know that a company actually cares about the dealers and not just what goes into their pocket.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's definitely a hallmark of a company that has the customer's best interest in mind instead of, complete profit and revenue. Just sometimes you have to give up a little of that profit revenue to ensure that your customer base is happy. So you offer incentives, or you offer additional training or additional products, and it all costs money. But
Yeah,
in the long run, there's nothing greater than good word of mouth, and there's nothing greater than making a customer happy to where they don't want to leave for another system. So that's
yeah,
great. That's awesome.
yeah,
Um,
and it's the same with you guys too. You guys stand up with what you guys say, and I always say that's one of the reasons why I stay with companies. I don't care how cheap a product is, if they're not going to stand, or whatever the case would be, if they're not going to stand behind, if I've got support issues that hang out and just continually hang out there, that's always a problem of mine.
Absolutely.
Like you guys, Techion's the same way. You guys, I report a problem, I get answers, and that's what I like.
Sure. Absolutely. Um, Kind of switching gears a little bit. You handle some of the new car ordering, or at least you're part of that process at the dealership. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
So, what do you see for the future of commerce in the automotive industry? How do you think the modern dealership, what we know as the dealership, is going to be affected either positively or negatively?
That's something we've been talking about for a while, is what's going to happen.
Right?
The way it sits right now, 90% of the stuff we order by the time it hits our lot is sold with a customer's name on it, ready to go out the door when it arrives. We're ordering more vehicles than we ever have, specifically for customers. Just received a 2500 heavy duty truck in this morning for a good friend of mine. He ordered that thing 6 months ago. It finally hit our lot today. These guys are like, car owners are used to being able to go to the lot and buy a car, and unfortunately, it's not like that. It's if you want a used vehicle, yeah, there's used vehicles out there, but the new vehicles, it's unfortunate that we can't get them like we used to. You know, we're used to seeing 5-6 transports a week, dropping anywhere from 2 to 4 to 5 cars off at a time. Now we're lucky, maybe 1 to 2 a week at getting a handful of cars in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it's tough. It's tough to do business. And then you got the customers like, man, what's going on with my vehicle? I ordered this thing 5 months ago. Yeah, but we're dealing with the plant. With, plant and transportation. Transportation's been one of the biggest headaches. When you get a vehicle done and it takes 3 months to make the trip of 1,100 miles because there's no trains available, there's no trucks available, whatever the case may be, it's tough. And that's one of the things we've been dealing with. And, unfortunately, it's what dealers are used to, but the consumers are not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the biggest thing there is consumers are not used to it. They are used to the instant gratification, for lack of better terms. They can go down to the lot and they can drive a new truck or a new SUV. And if they like it, they can make a decision right there. They don't have that ability. They have to go online. They have to order a brand new vehicle. They have to go to the dealership and speak with somebody. Well, I can't show you one here, Mr. Customer, but I can show you on my computer screen what it looks like.
Yeah.
And
even the tougher thing is they're like, well, is there at least any in the area I can look at? No.
Right.
We had, when I was helping my buddy with his truck, he's like, is there at least one in the area we can take a look at? I was like, pulled it up. I'm like, I'm doing 1,000-mile search right now. There's not one like you wanted in this area.
Right.
In 1,000 miles of us.
Right.
So that makes it tough because customers like to be able to see, touch, feel, get a feeling for what they are, but we aren't able to, unfortunately, do that now because we can barely keep 20 new cars on our lot.
Right.
And I will say the other thing that's crazy too is the amount of business we're doing outside of our area.
Sure.
You're used to selling to, unless you know somebody, you're used to selling within your area. We have more people calling from all over the country because they find that we have a vehicle on our lot that they are specifically looking for. And they're like, we'll fly down and get it. Okay.
And that does bring me to my next question, specifically when it comes to inventory shortages. Obviously, they're very commonplace, both on pre-owned and the new, as you kind of alluded to. Yeah, how have you guys managed to keep up with the demand of your customers, and what advice would you give your peers that may not have the foot traffic you guys do?
One of the things that we've started doing is Facebook browsing.
Sure.
We'll browse the marketplace on there, and we'll see somebody selling a vehicle, and we'll message them and be like, we'll have a check in hand when you arrive. And we've done a lot of sales like that, and we've bought a lot of vehicles that have come in like that, and it's one of the things that has worked out well for us. It's crazy that's what it's coming to, but if it works, that's what we're gonna do. Our Super Center Autoplex store, one of the guys out there, two of the guys out there really have really done well at it. And we're starting to train some guys out at our Chevy store, and they're really starting to get a grasp of that as well.
Sources like the auction just aren't producing the vehicles that you guys probably want to sell to your customers, because a lot of that stuff is rough. Obviously trade-ins are getting fewer and fewer because customers want to hold on to that stuff. And so, I definitely would see private party being a big player, and consumers, CarMax has been doing it for years. Hey, we'll buy your car. You don't have to buy one of ours. And it's virtually like dealerships have to kind of go that route or that direction to stay competitive in the market that currently does not really, it's not conducive to a volume type situation at this time. But values are coming down, and we'll start seeing that kind of stuff. But moving on to the next question, which kind of builds off of that, is currently the market, we're looking at average of $500 to $700 car payments, depending on if you're looking at pre-owned or new vehicles. $31,000 is the average right now in America for a pre-owned vehicle, and that usually comes with pretty high mileage. Do you see customers accepting what is when it comes to the market, or being more apprehensive as we continue to loom on through this period of higher vehicle prices?
I don't think the consumers have ever really. I think they've become more understanding more than anything. Now, they're still trying the best they can to get top dollar for both their vehicles and also get the best price on whatever they are buying.
Sure.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a market right now to where, consumers consumers are willing to pay. And unfortunately for everybody right now, it's with the inventories and the way the market is and everything, it is probably the toughest it's ever been to both be a buyer and a seller in the vehicle market, because you got the consumer wanting to get as much for their trade-in as they want, but yet they're also trying to drive down the vehicle that they're buying, and it's just, dealerships are still trying to make a profit, and that's, there's it's just tough. We'll just put it
Sure.
that way. It's tough.
It is.
Even, it's the same way on the service side as well. Consumers just they have a hard time understanding that, okay, your car's broken, but sorry, we can't fix it right now because there are no parts in the country to fix it.
Sure. Absolutely.
They're on an indefinite back order, and there's no date currently of when we're going to see it. Unfortunately, it's a game. It starts on the sales side, goes to the service, goes back to sales.
Absolutely. It's a circle of life, right?
Yes.
Where's the Lion King music when we need it, right? As we go to close the show, obviously I've been out to St. Louis. I've definitely enjoyed some really good barbecue with you, my friend. But my question for you is, what are the top 3 places to get the best barbecue in St. Louis?
Oh, man, that is always a tough one. The top 3 in St. Louis right now, I would say Pappy's is always a very popular one. Sugar Fire is a really popular one, and Salt and Smoke's another really popular one. They're all 3 really good. All 3 have slightly different versions of what they do.
Sure.
Sugar Fire is a fun place to go because they have some consistency on their menu, but they also do some crazy inventions.
Right.
I mean, I don't know where their chefs come up with what they cook some days, but some of the stuff has been amazing.
Hey, they actually opened a Sugar Fire up here in the Orchard Shopping Center, just not far from the office. I don't know if they're still open, but I did take a venture over there just because I know they came from St. Louis, and I had to try the barbecue.
It's always good, but it's one of the places that they cook what they cook for the day, and that's it. So you go in there at 7:00 at night, they only may have a pork steak left for you, or
absolutely,
this or that. So but yeah, they're all 3 very good places, and I like to frequent them when I'm not using my own smoker at home.
All right, well, that sounds great. Josh, thank you again so much for your time. We value you as a customer, and I certainly enjoy coming out to St. Louis and enjoying good barbecue and sitting down and kind of chatting a little bit about what's going on for you. So I look forward to doing more of that in the future, and it is 4th of July weekend, so have yourself a wonderful and beautiful 4th of July with your family.
I will do that, and you do the same as well. Enjoy, and look forward to getting you back to St. Louis so we can enjoy some time together and go get some good barbecue.
Absolutely. All right, Josh. Thanks.
Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you for joining us today for another great episode of Dashboard Dialogues. You can follow and listen to Dashboard Dialogues on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Also, remember to follow our socials on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.